Welcome to Awesome Movie Year, the podcast where we take a look back at an awesome year for movies, which is every year. My name is Josh Bell, film critic and writer, and I'm here with my co-host.
I'm Jason Harris, filmmaker, comedian, and a magic narwhal.
All right, that's a voice.
Well, I could be a down south New Orleans style and a magic snowman too.
Sure you could. You could be anything you want. So
Puffin.
it's the holiday season-ish, right? I think we're in the holidays. And
Better be. We're doing a holiday movie specifically for that reason.
We are. So yes, it is the holiday season. And we've got a couple holiday bonus episodes here, which something we've done in the past. And in particular, we're looking back to our season on the films of 2003, when we had for our audience choice 3 beloved Christmas films. And it was a close vote. And we ended up talking about Bad Santa. But we thought we'd return to that and talk about the other Christmas films that were our voting options, because people were excited about all of them. So we're starting that off with the beloved Christmas classic, Elf.
Yay!
So, and I think actually what ended up happening was after we made our plan for that Bad Santa episode, we got a couple more votes and Elf tied with Bad Santa, I think. So we really...
Election fraud on Awesome Movie
It
here.
is, yeah. We needed a recount or something. So obviously people were interested in Elf. And I mean, it's not a surprise. This is an extremely popular film and has become this beloved Christmas movie.
All 3 of the movies are, holiday classics, Josh. Ones that are watched every year. Of course, Bad Santa, you mentioned. The other one is Love Actually. We'll do an episode on that.
Oh, spoiler there.
That'll be in your stocking on Christmas.
Put some podcasts in your stocking.
Yeesh. But it's time for Elf. We're going to rock the 2003 Christmas season, starting with Buddy the Elf.
Buddy the Elf. And this was not only Christmas classic now, but it was a huge hit at the time that it came out. It grossed $223.3 million on its budget of only $33 million, and seemed like it was immediately ubiquitous as a Christmas movie. I mean, this isn't one of those movies where it kind of took its time to become this seasonal favorite. Like, immediately, this was a movie that people were watching at Christmas.
Yeah, this is that 4-quadrant movie, right? Everyone could watch it. You watch it with your family. Parents like it, kids like it. You can watch it on a date. You ever have a date for Christmas, Josh? You ever have a Christmas date?
Did I? No, I don't think I did.
I remember once, I think I got stood up on a Christmas date or something like that.
What a heartwarming story.
Let's get back to Elf.
So you're right, though. It was a crowd pleaser. Grandparents. Yeah. My grandma hates Elf.
That sounds right.
Yeah. It is beloved in my family. Especially my sister, who I'm sure voted for it in our poll, loves Elf and would always want to watch it at holiday time, which we would do. We would put it on, kind of as we're getting ready to eat dinner or opening presents or whatever. And I think at one point my grandma decided she was going to put her foot down and we could not watch Elf anymore.
Come on, Judge Judy. We can watch something.
She does love Judge Judy. If there was a Judge
Elf
Judy
again.
Christmas movie, we'd be watching that.
What is this fakakta movie you're making me watch again? A man and an elf, they're the same? I don't think so.
That's a great impression of my grandma. That's really going to be appreciated by the majority of our audience.
Josh, I'm leaving you money because otherwise you'll never get by in life.
Oh, that is a very accurate impression of my grandma. But this is a movie that was nominated for very populist awards at the Kids' Choice Awards, the MTV Movie Awards, the Teen Choice Awards. That's the kind of thing that Elf got. No Oscar nominations for this one.
A lot of the time I hate movies like that.
Right.
But I don't hate this movie at all. I quite like it, Josh.
I agree. And I think that perspective of people who expect to hate this kind of movie and instead enjoyed it was really a lot of what we got from critics. Ebert and Roper gave it 2 thumbs up, and Ebert especially expressed his disbelief that this turned out to be a good movie. And he really elaborates on that in an amusing way in his review. He said, "If I were to tell you Elf stars Will Ferrell as a human named Buddy who thinks he is an elf and Ed Asner as Santa Claus, would you feel an urgent desire to see this film? Neither did I. I thought it would be clunky, stupid, and obvious. It would have grotesque special effects and lumber about in the wreckage of holiday cheer, foisting upon us a chaste romance involving the only girl in America who doesn't know that a man who thinks he is an elf is by definition a pervert. That's what I thought it would be. It took me about 10 seconds of seeing Will Ferrell in the elf costume to realize how very wrong I was. This is one of those rare Christmas comedies that has a heart, a brain, and a wicked sense of humor, and it charms the socks right off the mantelpiece.
Well, man, there's just so much going on with that.
Yeah,
right there.
I had to get all that in because I love that Ebert's immediate reaction is, this man is a pervert.
By definition, I think that was the important
Yes.
thing. Hey, if I was, man, this is not the way to start this thing, but that is one of the things that threw me. The love story is very odd. You know? And he, while not a pervert, I think we could say he's got some type of arrested development, and it's kind of strange that she falls in love with a man-child, who's like on their date, taking him through revolving doors and stuff like that.
Right. I feel like the way it's presented in the movie is that if anyone is a pervert, it's her, because he's clearly sort of pre-sexual, I guess we could say. I mean, he doesn't even understand to kiss her on the lips.
Yeah, but then he makes a baby with her at the end.
Right, which was a little, you're right. Maybe this is not the way to start to get into Betty's sex life.
I mean, I'm saying we both like this movie, but the love story is probably the weakest part of it.
It does feel like sort of underdeveloped, and that you needed some sort of further understanding of these characters in terms of their romantic intentions in order for that to work, and it just doesn't quite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but one thing where he said he was expecting grotesque special effects, I think some of the best stuff is the fact that they use so many in-camera tricks and practical effects, which Will Ferrell fought for. They really wanted CGI, but he said no.
Well, that was a smart move on his part, and obviously not a lesson that Jon Favreau heeded in any possible way.
I mean, Jon Favreau, again, like this Ebert review is like, I thought it would be clunky and this and that. And you're like, well, knowing what we know now, Jon Favreau's always just a little bit ahead of the rest of us, I think.
Yeah, this is possibly my favorite movie that Jon Favreau has directed.
I don't think that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
He didn't direct Swingers.
That is true. A.O. Scott in the New York Times also kind of expected to hate it and did not. He said, Elf is a charming, silly family Christmas movie, more likely to spread real joy than migraine, indigestion, and sugar shock. The movie succeeds because it at once restrains its sticky, gooey good cheer and wildly overdoes it. Jon Favreau's direction has a relaxed, swinging rhythm, a reflection of the hipster nonchalance that has defined and also limited his acting style. The big, chaotic scenes sometimes lack polish and precision, but Elf also happily forgoes the slick, hyperactive aggression that makes so many live-action holiday comedies so wearying.
This guy doesn't know what the word hipster means. That's what I took from
I mean,
that.
I think you have to remember that at this point, Jon Favreau was known almost exclusively for Swingers and Made.
Zathura? Did he make Zathura?
I think Zathura was after this.
Oh,
yeah.
Because I know this is the first Will Ferrell post SNL movie, right?
Well, Old School I think came before this.
I think he was still on SNL.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe so.
But I thought Favreau had directed at least one other big budget thing.
I don't think so. I think he had just directed Made at this point.
Well, okay, that's fine. But just assuming that like he's bringing those sensibilities over is just incorrect in this.
Yeah, I don't see any sort of. I disagree with you. I think that to label Favreau a hipster based on his prior films before this is fair, but I don't see any of that in this film.
I don't think that's true either. I don't ever think, well, I don't care. Who cares? I mean, do I want to say like, were hipsters doing swing dancing, or were hipsters the ones who were like, swing dancing sucks, where are the Strokes?
I mean, I don't know exactly, but I think the point is that he exuded that sense of like sort of underground cool in those early films.
Yeah.
But he doesn't bring that.
Right, exactly. And that's just bad work on that journalist's part. Bad.
But I mean, I think his point, like Ebert's point, is that you expect something overdone and irritating and cloying out of these Hollywood Christmas movies, and that's not what you get here.
Someone has talent to do something other than what we expect.
Well, I mean, think about how many, and in this year, multiple reviews mentioned that the Santa Claus 2 and the Jim Carrey version of How the Grinch Stole Christmas were recent Christmas movies. And you think about those compared to this, those are exactly all the awfulness that you would expect.
Yeah, Josh, before we started this today, Dave and I did our piecing it together, doing the previews for the upcoming movies. And of course, it's December, lots of Christmas movies, right? And we were talking about that movie Silent Night with Keira Knightley, which is a very dark comedy. And we've talked about the other Black Friday. And it's good that there's room for all of this now, but maybe you're right. There wasn't as much kind of bandwidth for exploring the Christmas spaces as widely as before.
Right. And especially in a movie that's like a decent sized budget that comes from a studio that's meant to appeal to a wide audience. So I think it's fair for them to expect that and then to be, pleasantly surprised. And mostly critics were into this, but I wanted to find a negative response. And this is also an amusing one because it is, as we sometimes enjoy seeing, people making very, very wrong predictions about how things would go. So Stephen Hunter in the Washington Post said, "For pure, intense, vivid, and ruinous curses, you have no further to turn than the redoubtable weekend fixture Saturday Night Live. For nearly 3 decades, it has quite routinely discovered attractive performers, made them famous, dispatched them to the movies, and most often watched them fail miserably. That pattern is unlikely to be changed with the utterly misbegotten Elf, which is the first and possibly the last Will Ferrell star vehicle. It's a clumsy, tedious ride that wears out its welcome as it wears out the seat of your pants and the circulation in your lower limbs."
Man, this guy not only didn't get Elf right, but he seems to have no concept of the success rate of Saturday Night Live stars,
Right, because even if you don't like these movies, I mean, it's hard to argue that people like Bill Murray or Chevy Chase didn't become movie stars.
Adam Sandler, Chris Farley, David Spade. David Spade's a movie star, right?
He
was.
David Spade is a second-tier Netflix star.
Still a movie star. They make movies on Netflix.
They
and at
do.
the time of this, those were theatrical movies, right?
Right. I mean, I think elsewhere it was citing some recent, maybe like Chris Kattan and some people who didn't, like, they don't all become movie stars.
Right.
But
so then that's the point is, hey, this was more of a down period to create those stars. But,
Right.
or, because, what else was coming out? The Ladies Man, maybe around this time.
yeah,
or something.
possibly
But-
something like that.
But again, it's idiotic because it's a dumb comparison. This is not an SNL movie,
Right. It's not based on a sketch character or anything. It wasn't produced by Lorne Michaels.
Yeah.
And even if you don't like this movie, I think to watch this movie and think, oh, Will Ferrell is gonna like descend into obscurity after this is a really misguided take.
Yeah, I think from this performance, you could say maybe he'd go more of that like juvenile Sandler route, which he really did. He did his own thing, Will Ferrell, which I appreciate.
Yeah, he's got some good range, and I mean he's done crowd pleasing. We'll talk about that later maybe, but he's certainly done these kinds of crowd pleasing movies. He's done raunchier comedies. He's done some serious dark films.
Yeah, he's good.
He is good. So screw you, Pulitzer Prize winning Stephen Hunter.
Yeah,
I think.
Stephen Hunter. I have one more quote from a review.
All right.
It's I'm gonna take a nap, Josh. I expected so much more of you.
It's my grandma.
Josh's grandma.
You're quoting my. Oh, I thought you had a real thing to quote. But Jason is looking at his tablet as if he's going to read something, and then just does an impression of my grandma. So I hope you had impression of Josh's grandma written in your notes for this episode.
Nope. This is the beauty, Josh.
Just all improvised.
Magic.
Amazing.
It's just like Will Ferrell. Magic.
Amazing. So obviously this is a holiday favorite that I think had all seen, but Jason, did you see this when it was released in
we
theaters?
probably both saw it in the theater. Maybe this was around the time when you had started being a critic of films,
Yes.
I think we probably saw it as a preview and both thought like, hey, this is good.
Right. Well, I definitely, because I wrote a review of it. And so I definitely saw it at a preview. It's possible that you were there with me, but I had that similar response in my review, basically like this could have been terrible. And it turns out that it was good. So yeah, I liked it. I only gave it 3 stars out of 5 at that time, but I think I like it a little more. Like I said, it's because it's a favorite of my sister's. I feel like I've seen bits and pieces of it many, many times over many, many holidays, but how many times I sat down and watched it from beginning to end, I don't know.
I didn't watch it for a while, and then Scarlett, my daughter, and I watched it last year for the first time together and just had such a great time. And in preparation for this, I said, Scarlett, don't do your homework. You and Daddy got a different assignment tonight. It's time for us to watch Elf, and we had a great time watching it again.
Oh, that's good. So do you feel like, is this one of her Christmas favorites?
I think it is. And we crack up every time at some of the same points. For instance, when Buddy and Michael are putting up the Christmas tree, and it's a giant Christmas tree. Michael says, how are we going to get the star on top? And Buddy says, I'll get it. And he just takes a running leap onto the couch, bounces into the Christmas tree, and gets like halfway up, and then the tree falls on him. We laugh out loud every time there. That is some good physical comedy.
That is a good moment. So Dave, did you see this when it came out?
Oh yeah, definitely. I was full throttle, Will Ferrell, everything he was doing at the time.
Right. Well, we did talk about your love for old school. So
Yeah, absolutely.
presumably. And is this a holiday favorite for you?
I feel like it was, and then I tried to watch it like a couple of years ago, and it didn't work as well. And I'm happy to report that this time around, I was like right back to loving it. I don't know, maybe I just wasn't in the mood last time. Yeah,
Dave the Grinch.
I was the Grinch.
Yeah. You could watch it with Josh's grandma with that attitude.
That's true.
But we would love it this time.
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's one of the great things about it is because of the tone, and it's obviously there's intelligence to this thing, right? And that for the most part, the characters all earn where they get to. Like it holds up. It holds up to this point.
Yeah, I think so. I certainly enjoyed it. I think because it's this background thing so much, you don't think about its craftsmanship or its cleverness. It's like an ornament. It's just something that's there. And so actually watching it from beginning to end and appreciating it is really well made.
And we got to give just a ton of credit to Favreau and Will Ferrell because the script had been around since 1993. David Berenbaum, who really, this was the height of his career.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and supposedly it was much darker. And then Ferrell and Jon Favreau just said, we could really lean into the spirit of Christmas here and, kind of do those Bankin' Rass style.
Rankin Bass.
What did I say?
Bankin' Rass.
Yeah. So
either one, really.
You know what I mean.
I do.
But those homages, not just with the animagic that we talked about.
Ooh, yes.
But also like the tone and the whimsy of New York City. Like I love how they present New York City as this magical Christmas place. And it just all works still.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't think the sort of, I don't know what the darker version looked like or read like in a script form, but I don't think that would have been good. As much as we're criticizing the romance, I don't think we would want to witness Buddy's perversion or something like that, whatever the dark version would have been.
No, I think that could have been either just a friendship that we never see turn into a romance, and then we could have had the end piece of like, hey, we eventually got together and had a baby or whatever, or they could have just kept it as a nice friendship.
Yeah, I think maybe just keeping it with friendship might have worked better, but it's a Hollywood movie. You have to have a romance, as Ebert points out. So, it's fine. If you have to have it, it could have been worse. So, anything else on the background you want to talk about here?
Why did Ebert take a shot at Ed Asner? He's beloved.
Well, I think, and he wasn't the only one. I think a lot of these reviews mention Ed Asner and James Caan and the idea of their sort of counterintuitive casting as a negative. But to me, again, one of the things that works about this movie is that you have these grumpy, curmudgeonly old guys in these nice Christmas roles, and it kind of that tension makes it amusing.
And James Caan is a grump, and that's the character here. But Ed Asner is just fantastic as Santa Claus. And I think he probably went on and played Santa Claus like 50 more times after this.
It's quite possible. He's definitely very Santa Claus-y. So, but I think just at the time, some of these, they were unexpected and people didn't know how to take them. And now we're so used to it because we've seen this movie a million times.
Yes, and we'll all watch it again, I think.
We will, right over the break.
Cool. And we'll be back after we watch Elf.
Welcome back to Awesome Movie Year. In this special holiday episode, we are returning to the films of 2003 to talk about Christmas classic Elf. And as we've established here, we all like it.
Just, it's all good, man. You know what's funny is I recently showed a producer a script and he said there's too many montages in it. And now I'm going to make him watch Elf because Elf has 1,000 montages and they're all good and they all work, you know. But, you know, just starting from the beginning when we're up in the North Pole, I love just like what a set it looks like, you know, and all those fun effects to show just the size difference between Buddy and the rest of the elves. And of course, like Bob Newhart, who again wasn't really like, if you look up his filmography, there's not much as far as movies go. He's delightful as Papa Elf there and nails it.
Yeah, absolutely. He's so delightful that when he's gone for the majority of the middle of the movie, you kind of miss him.
Yeah, like bring him back in the middle just to like get us over the hump there.
Right.
So.
Maybe he could come back. He doesn't get to have any scenes with James Caan as the sort of dueling father figures of Buddy the Elf. I feel like that could have been something.
I think, yeah, you're right. But I do think like, you know, a lot of what worked about it is that they didn't get bogged down in mechanism. It was just very simple. Like even the way he finds out he's a human, he overhears it and then he's like, well, I guess I'll go find my dad. And then he goes and finds his dad. Like it's all very logical. Next step, as opposed to like doing all these reversals and everything that you're supposed to do as a screenwriter and whatnot. So I think the simplicity really helps it out. And, you know, we talked about some of the actors, like everyone who's cast in this is right on. Mary Steenburgen is an underappreciated American hero. She's great in everything, and she always holds down these comedies in such a grounded way. She's always just like there, and you can rely on her to do the job well. Peter Dinklage has that hot, you know, scene as Miles Finch where he fights with Buddy, and Will Ferrell really nails the wonderment and the whimsy of this whole thing.
Right. And that's so important because you realize that if you met Buddy in reality, he would be extremely annoying and you would never want to talk to him. But he is endearing in this film. And I think it could be so easy for Buddy as a film character to just be incredibly irritating and you don't want to watch him. And Will Ferrell makes him he does make him lovable or just charming, I guess is more like it, where I can, at least for me, I can watch the movie and think I would hate Buddy as a person, but I love him as a movie character.
Yeah. I mean, little things like when he first gets to New York and he's like hopping through the crosswalk and they honk at him and he hops back. Those little montages, like I said, go a really long way. And then I think he really earns even more when he gets to Gimbals. And they're like, Santa's coming tomorrow. And he gets so excited and he spends the whole night redecorating the store as only he could. I think that goes a long way to really sealing the rooting interest in this character.
Right. I mean, he has this sort of purity to him that no one else has. I mean, and that purity is what makes the love story not work because he is almost, you know, he's childlike. He's not, he doesn't have adult problems or adult worries or adult understanding of things.
Yeah, and I just didn't believe the love story.
Right. No, I agree. And Zooey Deschanel is also charming, and it's not necessarily her fault. I mean, there's an underwritten character. There's not much to her. I mean, her arc is that she's embarrassed about singing in public and then she sings.
Yeah, their best moment is that scene, which again, you know, like, so she's there in a department store taking a shower.
Right. They're like, oh, it's a locker room, but that's not entirely. I don't know how many department stores have locker rooms with showers.
That one really threw me.
Yeah, no, me too. Especially this time I was like, why is there a shower here?
Yeah, that I didn't understand. But the two of them singing Baby It's Cold Outside was pretty delightful together.
Yeah, that was nice. And it shows that moment more than almost any of the other moments show that they could connect, you know, that they both actually, even though she's kind of shy about it, they both have this love for singing and for Christmas music, and they can connect because they don't see each other when they're singing that song together. So that is a nice little moment. And then of course she does save Christmas at the end by getting everyone to sing Santa Claus is coming to town.
But I gotta say, and I love the callback because, you know, in the very beginning we learned the 3 ways to enhance Christmas or whatever, the 3 ways to maximize Christmas. And rule number 3 is, sing it loud, sing it proud. We're here, we're queer, get used to it. Or something along those
something
lines,
like that. Something,
right?
maybe not exactly that, but
Yeah, but
something like that.
you know what it is,
Yes,
right?
yeah, it's Christmas cheer. You sing loud for all to hear, something like that.
Right, and that gets the belief up and the Christmas meter up. And I think it really worked as a callback there.
Yeah, it does. I feel like, to me, the movie is the best when it's just weird comedy. And I really appreciated this time how like strange some of the comedy is in this movie. But obviously it is a Hollywood movie. So at a certain point, you have to have conflict and you have to have the plot come together. And we have the climax where Santa Claus comes back and his sleigh is broken down and you need the Christmas spirit to get the sleigh back up and running and save Christmas. And I thought that was all maybe a little rote, like, well, we got to do this, so here it is. I would have been happy if it was just Buddy being weird in New York the whole time.
I agree with you that Act 3 is not as strong as, Acts 1 and 2, but it does still hold up. Michael reading the Santa Claus's book about what all the kids wanted for Christmas. And I agree, it's not as strong because it feels like it also comes out of nowhere, right? We haven't seen this kind of urgency, and there's never been anything about him needing to save Christmas, right? So
right.
It just feels a little different. And then also, when we move from the set of the North Pole to New York, we're moving in this like kind of animated, crazy, fun world, set design into this real world, and now we're putting Santa in here. But it just kind of, I'm glad he came back, but this didn't fit as well for me.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that is something where they feel like we have to, and what's the Christmas movies are all about saving Christmas a lot of the time.
Every single one.
Yeah. I mean, you do establish a little in the beginning. We have Bob Newhart's character. We have Papa Elf showing Buddy the engine on the sleigh and how they had to build it because there's not enough Christmas spirit. And so it's established a bit, but not the idea that it's going to break down and Christmas is going to be in jeopardy. So to me, that was a little unnecessary. But at the same time, even those parts are full of weird bits of humor. I love the TV news reporter in those scenes who is being weirdly like negged by her colleague, the reporter, who keeps being condescending to her about, oh, you never found any stories like this in Buffalo, did you, Charlotte?
My favorite bit on that is Matt Walsh as the guy that she interviews, and he's like, yeah, you're just great at your job, and you got the right type of eyes for this, and and he's just I bet that was all improvised, obviously, Matt Walsh there. But I do like all that weird stuff. I love some of the big set pieces. Like Michael is not a fan of Buddy, he thinks he's too weird, he's embarrassing, and then they have the snowball fight with the other kids, and we see Buddy's elf skills about like making snowballs fast and just pounding those kids with snowballs. That's a great set piece right there.
Yeah, that stuff is fun too. Early on in the movie, where it's just a lot of the contrasting of Buddy's weirdness with the real world and how people respond to him. So I will say also though about Matt Walsh, for some reason in the credits, he's credited as playing himself. Which is
interesting.
Completely as if Matt Walsh, the actor, was hanging out in Central Park, being spoken to by this TV news reporter about Santa Claus.
Well, I got another weird one like that about this. Faison Love, who plays the Gimbel's Christmas department store manager, right? By the way, just love the fact that he's wearing black like sneakers or like work shoes and white sweat socks. Like, I love that.
I didn't notice that detail.
But that was originally written for Wanda Sykes, and Faison Love demanded that he still get to wear the name tag Wanda, which is
I hadn't noticed that. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, all sorts of random stuff like that. When the TV news is reporting on Buddy being in Central Park, there's this freeze frame of him that looks like the famous image of Bigfoot.
So good. And I didn't even understand that all the times I watched in the past until this year when I watched that mini series on Hulu of the big hunting Bigfoot, and then everyone gets murdered or whatever that was called.
By the way, my dad's friend took that picture.
The actual Bigfoot picture?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
He's still alive, right?
Yeah, he's here in Vegas, actually. I don't know if he still is. He was like 10 years ago.
What's his name?
Tom Biscardi, I think.
Yeah, he's in that miniseries that I watched.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Nice.
wow. That's
I think
crazy.
so.
That,
He's a record collector.
Yeah.
Of course he is.
Yes.
Because he's yeah.
Dave's dad, Wax Trax Records, everybody.
Yes.
But no, that's hilarious, that whole Bigfoot thing.
Right. And it's so random and it's not like remarked upon in any way.
Yeah,
and
I like that.
No children are going to notice that.
Right. And it's funny because it's funny. It works on the surface level and then it works on that deeper level also. I like the sequence a lot where Santa does come to the mall and it's Artie Lang and, Will Ferrell, you smell like beef and cheese. You're a fake, and that's just seen as just kind of very good to escalate everything.
Right. Yeah. That stuff is really funny. And again, all of the things and as you referenced, some of this may be improvised, but all of the stuff that Buddy says in response to the sort of reality of New York City and jobs and stores and all that stuff is off kilter, is not what you would expect necessarily from this kind of wholesome Christmassy movie. And not that it's dark or inappropriate, but it's just a little strange. And I like that about this.
I've got a good example of that is when he says, "Good news, I saw a dog today."
Yeah.
I love
You've
that.
probably seen it. You've seen the dog before. Yeah.
Right. And just, and he doesn't really have like self-doubt ever. He never worries that he's doing the wrong thing or the inappropriate thing. He's just 100% confident about doing what he does.
I think the one thing that also gets us to root for him is, but he doesn't fit in and he knows he doesn't fit in.
Well, right. And he doesn't fit in New York and he doesn't fit in among the elves either. And, he has some angst, but at the same time, he's so cheerful about everything and that you can't break him.
Yeah, let's talk about those animagics though, Josh.
Yeah, they look great. That are references back to those Rankin Bass specials like Frosty the Snowman and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. You've got Leon Redbone. Talk about random.
Yeah, Leon Redbone, man.
Playing the snowman and the was it a puffin, right?
There's a puffin, a narwhal, and other things.
Yeah, one other thing I think. And I think Jon Favreau does the voice of the narwhal.
Yeah, and the puffin.
Yeah. So, right. I mean, I think that really, first of all, it's really well done. It really captures the style of those old specials and it puts you right in the mentality of this is a Christmas classic because those are already Christmas classics.
Right.
So, yeah, that stuff is great.
How about some alternative casting, Josh?
Of course. How could you not get to the alternative casting?
Originally, and I think it would have been good, written for Chris Farley, Jim Carrey.
Yeah, I mean, Jim Carrey seems like an obvious choice, but watch the Jim Carrey Grinch movie, or better yet, don't watch the Jim Carrey Grinch movie and see what he could have done with something like this. Although that movie also has some really weirdly dark things in it.
Yeah, the other thing, Gary Shandling turned down the part that James Caan took.
See, and Gary Shandling, I'm sure would have been good, but he seems like a more obvious choice. Like he's a comedy actor who's known for being kind of nervous or whatever. But James Caan is, because he's sort of counterintuitive for that choice and he's known for like serious tough guy roles, it really works.
Yeah, he talks grumbled and is never really happy about anything.
Right. There's a lot of grumbling in this movie between him and Ed Asner and
your grandma watching,
Right, exactly. All of that.
Yeah, no.
Really all works.
No, it's all good. And the soundtrack was a huge success. It is the second highest grossing Christmas soundtrack ever, Christmas movie soundtrack.
Wow. Yeah, people love Christmas music. I mean, you can never get enough of it.
Sold 695,000 copies, only behind Polar Express. Polar Express.
Yeah, that's a movie.
Sure is.
So let's rate this then. You want to rate it out of 5 spaghetti and candy breakfasts?
Spaghetti and syrup breakfasts?
Yeah.
Cool. 3.5 spaghetti and syrup breakfasts for me.
I will give it 3.5 as well. Like I said, I think I enjoyed it more this time, and it deserves its place in the Christmas pantheon. So, Dave?
3.5 from me too.
Wow, we all agreed.
I have one more rating from Josh's grandma.
Oh, good.
Come on, leave me alone.
Yeah, that's about right. We'll come back in a moment then and talk about the legacy of Elf. Welcome back to Awesome Movie Year. In this special holiday episode, looking back at the films of 2003, we've been talking about Elf. And of course, as we keep saying, it is a Christmas classic, and that's its biggest legacy, is just that it is unavoidable at Christmas. which is one of the reasons that maybe some people get annoyed with it. Just like a lot of other Christmas movies that get played on a loop.
But the ones that we think of, like we've covered Christmas Vacation before, Home Alone, stuff like that. The heart is really what shines through, and I think that's what really succeeds here.
Right. No, I agree. And like I said, I think it deserves its place there. But anything like that becomes so ubiquitous, it's not surprising that people get sick of it.
Yeah.
But it's still being shown. I'm sure it'll be in regular rotation on, TBS or some cable channel. It's available. Streaming services are going to want to have it for their viewers at Christmas time. It'll be out in theaters again around Christmas time. I mean, it's always around.
Now, there was Elf the Musical on Broadway in 2010, which I'm sure would have been a fun holiday show. I did watch Elf Buddy's Musical Christmas, which is based on that, and it's animated and not good.
Yeah, starring Jim Parsons from The Big Bang Theory as Buddy.
No offense to Jim Parsons, but he does not have the same lovability as Will Ferrell.
Yeah, definitely not. I haven't seen that, but I mean, I think that is part of the legacy here, which is that as much as this movie is beloved, Will Ferrell seems to never want to return to it. And I'm sure they asked him to be in that special and he declined.
Yeah, I mean, the things I've read, and I respect that. Like, I mean, how many sequels has he done? They did Anchorman 2 because he wanted to do Anchorman 2.
Daddy's Home 2.
Right. Okay. That's a different thing. Right. So, but I mean, they supposedly they've asked him to do Elf 2 and he's turned down $29 million and this and that. And then there's the rumor that he and Favreau don't get along or whatever. But like, we don't need another Elf if it's going to be a bad Santa too, right?
Right. No, I completely agree. I do, however, think it's interesting that he's held out like that because he certainly has done other sequels. But I'm 100% in favor of leaving Elf alone the way that it is, even though they haven't, obviously. And it's just a matter of time before someone reboots this with some young TikTok person as the star.
Josh has already seen that, and Dave, I don't know if you have, but that new Home Alone reboot, which is supposed to be the worst.
Oh, it's so bad.
It's universally regarded as one of the worst things ever made.
It is very, very, very bad. But Home Alone, unlike Elf, is a movie that no one hesitated to follow up on. I mean, it's not like that was the first time. There were 4 other Home Alones after the first one, but before this new one. So thanks, Will Ferrell, for having some integrity.
Will Ferrell, like you mentioned, has this kind of varied career, lots of different things. In the past, I think we've talked about some of the weirder movies he's made. He is going to be in a movie called Spirited, where he plays the ghost of Christmas Present, right?
Yeah, that's with Ryan Reynolds, and I am skeptical of that.
And we like, The Shrink Next Door, based on the podcast, just debuted. It's not Christmassy. It's very Hanukkah-y.
No, yeah, it's extremely Jewish.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I enjoyed it. It got kind of mixed reviews. It probably didn't need to be an 8-episode series. It probably could have been a feature film, but Will Ferrell and Paul Rudd are both good, and they have great chemistry.
And the episodes aren't too long, and it's
no, they get longer. But that's a general complaint about TV from me.
Yeah, but so since we've talked about Will Ferrell in the past, I mean, I do think I think he's going to star in the 100-year-old man who climbed out the window and disappeared. Which
a remake of that.
Yeah, so that could be fun. But we've talked about like him as an actor and doing these fun things, but I don't think he gets the credit as a producer. He's made so much good stuff. I mean, everything from Eastbound and Down to Succession. He's, Gary Sanchez is his production company. He produces it. Funny or Die, like, helped bring in this kind of streaming short form video revolution. So I think he's doing good stuff, this Will Ferrell.
Yeah, I think so. And that integrity to turn down the Elf sequel is part of his thoughtfulness, even though he's certainly been in plenty of bad movies, but he does seem to take some care to have diversity in his projects and stretch himself as a performer and all that.
It always seems like he's pushing himself and trying to give it his all there. So
yeah. And now Jon Favreau,
the king of Hollywood, bro.
Yeah.
You don't like him, but I don't know why. So
well, okay, I like The Mandalorian. Overall, the Star Wars series on Disney Plus that he created and has directed a lot of. But it seemed like after this movie, he really just aimed himself at bigger and bigger and less personal, less personality driven, less quirky Hollywood projects. And he's very successful.
Yeah.
You can't argue with that.
I mean, he did make Chef, right?
Which I think is terrible.
But a lot of people love and kind of
Yes.
hit that zeitgeist again. And the whole Marvel universe is partially due to him and Iron Man, which again exceeded huge expectations. So he helped set up that universe. And I think he really jump-started the Star Wars universe, which he's kind of in charge of. He's like the Kevin Feige now, it seems like, of Star Wars, because no one was excited about the movies anymore. People are excited about Mandalorian and that stuff. And the way he's shooting that is all pretty cool too.
Right. I mean, you can't argue with his success, certainly. And I think his Iron Man movies are fine. And they definitely did prove that Marvel superhero universe could be a big Hollywood success. So I just feel like there's a direction that he could have gone in that, you know, maybe he didn't want to, and that's fine. That would have been indicated by this, where there's a little more quirkiness, there's a little more comedic boldness, and that's not at all what he went for, and that's fine. And then again, you know, I watched Chef, where that's his more personal, grounded, smaller project, and I found that movie incredibly smarmy and annoying and self-serving.
Yeah, so I of Mandalorian and the Marvel movies, it seems like he does really well with, like, I mean, we even mentioned Zathura, which is probably his most underrated movie. It's all right?
Yeah.
But like, I mean, what he did, like Jungle Book and Lion.
That's, to me, the big thing is that what he's doing now is these horrible Disney remakes, and the Jungle Book and the Lion King are just both abysmal and worthless.
Yeah, okay, so I'm not going to disagree that those are bad movies. I'm just saying he's kind of trying to capture some type of imagination with all these things, and it's definitely working with Star Wars, and obviously it worked with the Marvel stuff.
Well, right. I mean, and you know, we may not like those Disney movies, but they were extremely successful, and he's making sequels, I think, to both of them. So, although actually, I think maybe he's not the director on the Lion King sequel, but is the director on the Jungle Book sequel. But the point being, those movies were really successful, and his interest in pushing special effects in the same way that he's done with The Mandalorian is a big reason why those movies were able to, like, why he was able to pull them off, even if they suck. And Dave is sitting here because Dave loves the Jungle Book.
I do love the Jungle Book. I will stand up for that one. But as much as I love the Jungle Book, The Lion King is every bit as terrible as you make it out to be. So I don't know why I like one and not the other.
Because they're very similar.
They are very similar, but it's just, there's nothing good about The Lion King.
Couldn't even. I think I saw the Lion King one, and I must have slept through it or something.
That was a smart move. It's bad.
I don't think it was a thing.
Yeah.
Zooey Deschanel, I think, kind of, you know, is at a good point to kind of reinvent herself. She was quirky best friend. She was quirky leading lady. She's in She and Him. That's kind of fun. So let's see where she goes now from here. And she's hosting the celebrity dating game.
Yeah, that's where she goes now. Yeah, I think she can be charming. I wasn't a regular viewer of New Girl, but it was very successful for multiple seasons.
It wasn't my thing. I never watched it, but She and Him do have 2 Christmas albums.
They do, yeah. So she certainly capitalized on the whole Christmas music thing with this film.
All right, Ed Asner, we know, died this year, working all the way till the end. Cobra Kai, Muppets Haunted Mansion. This is an amazing thing I looked up on Ed Asner. He is 25 for 47 in awards, wins to nominations, and 5 for 11 in Golden Globes, and 7 for 17 in Emmys. 17 Emmy nods and 7 wins, you know.
Yeah.
That's legendary, man. And we're not even talking about his activism, because you don't care for that, Josh.
No.
Mary Tyler Moore, Rich Man, Poor Man, Lou Grant, Bob Newhart, another legend, obviously TV. We know he's just, you know, and as a stand-up, the button down mind, like one of the all-time greats. James Caan, what was he in? A little movie called The Godfather or something?
Right. Well, that was before this. But I mean, I think James Caan and Ed Asner, especially if you look at his filmography, like, he was working constantly. He has, like, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 things still banked.
I love that. That's
but
great.
I mean, it's like 80% garbage.
But he made Up not too long ago. So, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I think he was definitely going for quantity, and he was a legend. So he ended up getting cast in some good stuff too. But, you know, he's one of these old school actors. I feel like there's a lot of those people
just want to work.
Who just wanted to work. Yeah. Worked all the way until his death. And James Caan too, is just working constantly in a lot of garbage.
Queen Bees. I didn't see this.
I didn't see that either. That was the most recent release.
Out right now. I know we already said Mary Steenburgen She has an Oscar, and I'm happy for her.
Good for her. I like her. She's always a welcome
Yeah,
presence and stuff. So
I
no,
think
these
so.
guys, these people are all talented.
Right.
But I definitely think in some degree it's the idea of just saying yes to everything.
Do you know when we talked about Daniel Tay, the kid who played Michael?
Did we talk about him before?
Well, not him, but perhaps maybe. He played young Harvey Picar in
Oh wow.
Yeah.
In American Splendor.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, yeah, we probably didn't talk about him, but we did talk about that movie.
Yeah.
I mean, he's someone who kind of exited acting after being a child actor, which is totally fair.
Fine. We are okay with that.
Yeah, but watching him in this, for a minute I was like, oh, is that Michael Angarano, who was a child actor who's become an adult actor, and it's not. But I watching him, I thought like, oh, he's got, he's clearly someone who was doing something. I could see him having gone on to become an adult actor.
Josh, I got two more things.
Okay.
One, obviously, we've talked about Peter Dinklage in our Station Agent episode, and just always hits a home run, I feel like, And two, Dave, I'm surprised you didn't mention the score, because the score is really great and Christmassy.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked up John Debney, who it was the score.
The composer?
Score guy.
I think Josh is
Do you not
right.
know the word composer, Jason?
Musicer. And Josh,
yes,
as a composer, nobody, I don't think, is in the league with this guy as far as doing any type of holiday movies.
Oh, is he like the Christmas music specialist?
Not just that. Hocus Pocus, I'll Be Home for Christmas, The Passion of the Christ. There's a happy one.
Yeah.
Christmas with the Cranks, Keeping Up with the Steins, about bar mitzvahs, Valentine's Day, New Year's Eve, Draft Day, the football movie, The Young Messiah, Mother's Day, and I put The Beach Bum because that feels like a holiday, Jingle Jangle, A Christmas Journey, and recently, Josh, Clifford the Big Red Dog, Home Sweet Home Alone, and Hocus Pocus 2.
Oh man, as we just trashed Home Sweet Home Alone. Well, that guy knows what he's good at and keeps doing it.
He does it. He's a cottage industry.
Yeah.
It's nice to be known for something.
Right.
Yeah.
Props to him. I'm sure he's got no shortage of those kinds of movies to work on.
Yeah.
So, the only other thing you mentioned, David Berenbaum, the screenwriter, who this was really the height of his career. He did a couple of forgettable Spiderwick Chronicles and the Haunted Mansion movie, and nothing that's really distinguished in any way. And for all we know, it's really thanks to Jon Favreau and Will Ferrell that this movie worked, because as we're saying, his script originally had a very different tone. So, but credit to him, at least, if nothing else, for a really good idea. The concept of this movie is great.
Yeah, and it worked out.
It did work out. So that is Elf, and that is this episode of Awesome Movie Year. Say happy holidays to us on social media.
Why not, Josh? I'm Jason Harris Comedy, or Jay Harris Comedy, on all the socials. My website, go for Jason. For Christmas, someone get me a new website, all right? We're at awesomemovieyear.com, Awesome Movie Year on Facebook and Instagram, Awesome Movie Pod on Twitter.
My website, also not great, but if you go to joshbellhateseverything.com from quite a number of years ago, I have a whole bunch of posts about Christmas movies, not including this one, but a bunch of other ones. So look at that. Why not? Josh Bell Hates Everything on Facebook and at Signal Bleed on Twitter. And listen to our producer, David Rosen's awesome podcast, Piecing It Together.
Check out Piecing It Together wherever you listen to podcasts, and follow us on social media at Piecing Pod.
Maybe we'll have a holiday movie discussion in the Popcorn and Puzzle Pieces Facebook group.
I would like to see that happen.
We should.
Yeah. So, Jason, what's our next bonus that we've got coming up?
Well, Josh, we're taking a break from the holiday episodes, but we will get back to them. As we already said, we're going to do Love Actually. But next week, Josh, there's a little movie coming out called The Matrix Resurrections. And since we just finished our 1999 season, we got to give you a 1999 bonus episode. So we're going to go back to the first Matrix, just known as The Matrix, from 1999.
So tune in next time for The Matrix. And thanks for listening to Awesome Movie Year.
Thank you for listening to Awesome Movie Year. Make sure to follow Awesome Movie Year on Facebook, at Awesome Movie Pod on Twitter, and at Awesome Movie Year on Instagram. And if you like the show, review us and rate us with 5 stars on Apple Podcasts.
An All Points West production, produced by David Rosen in Las Vegas.
This is what you do with your free time?